What's going on, YouTubers? Mike Garcia, your ORL Realtor with Urban City Realty. I am sitting here with the District President of Fidelity National Title, the lovely Susan West. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you for joining us today. We just want to talk to our viewers and educate them on the title process. So first things first, tell me about yourself and how long you've been in the business.
Well, I've been in the title business for 24 years. I started out in sales, calling on realtors just like you, asking you to do business with me.
Right.
And right now I run the East Coast of Florida for Fidelity National Title. We have 16 offices from Jacksonville down to or Plantation.
Okay, great. The way title company handles escrow funds, I know it's extremely important and fraud is common in today's world. How do you prevent that? What advice would you give our buyers and sellers out there?
I think the first thing you said that was so key is fraud is common in our world because it's our society, right? We have identity theft and we have credit card scams and we have all those things. So what we do as professionals in the real estate world is we do our very best for that not to affect our industry in a negative way. Mm-hmm. So the first thing I would tell you when it comes to transferring funds, the buyer giving us an escrow deposit, the buyer giving us cash to close, us giving the seller money or the seller giving us money, is we keep the realtor out of it. And we suggest that you stay relevant by communicating with your customers about that process, but we like to communicate directly with the buyer or the seller with what we call encrypted emails.
Okay.
And that sometimes creates a little hiccup because a seller or a buyer, they're in their car, they're on the go, they're on their iPhone, they're on their iPad, and they can't open an encrypted email.
Right.
And what we tell them is that's good news.
Yep.
Call us. And when I talk about calling us, another tip for you as a realtor and other realtors is when you sit with your buyer and seller and you do that contract and you prepare it, we want you to put the title company's information in the contract. Put our contact phone number there and look at your seller and look at your buyer and say, program this number into your phone right now because this is where we're going to want you to communicate when the title company sends you information. It's critical that the information that we send with our account and the information that your clients send with their accounts, never do any funds get diverted to a different account. In a nutshell, communication directly between us and the buyer or the seller with encrypted emails and conversation to verify that the information sent was sent by us or sent by your customer. That's really critical.
Okay. What type of fees would a seller be looking at in a traditional transaction regarding title?
Okay, well what I like to say in that instance is customary. What's customary?
Okay.
Because as you know, as a real estate professional, you can negotiate or assist a buyer and seller, right, in negotiating any terms that they choose work for that specific transaction.
Correct.
But what I like to talk about is customarily in Central Florida, the seller pays for title insurance, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the owner's policy. So they are paying for the buyer's title insurance. And then the buyer, if the buyer chooses to get a loan, is paying for their lender's title insurance. So title insurance and owner's title policy, a search fee, a closing fee, deed stamps for the transfer of the warranty deed are paid for by the seller. And then of course there are things like tax prorations, which we won't talk about today, but specific to title insurance, typically, customarily, the seller's going to pay for the deed stamps and they're going to pay for the owner's title insurance policy, a search fee, and a closing fee.
What is title insurance? Who needs it and what does it cover?
Well, title insurance is insurance that the new owner, the buyer of the property, really owns the home. And in a very simplistic term, that nobody in the history of that property still has interest in the property, whether it's heirs, whether it's taxes, anything that has happened in the past, all of those interests were extinguished and correctly conveyed and transferred the complete ownership of the property over to the new owner. Okay. So with that being said, I would suggest to you, and not because this is what I do for a living, that every owner needs title insurance to be secure in their ownership. And what happens if somebody from the past comes forward and says to your buyer, the new owner, hey, we have interest in this property, your buyer gets to send them to me. And I get to deal with any issue or problem that arises from that because I've issued an owner's title insurance policy.
What should I expect at my real estate closing? What is involved in the process?
So when you say I, you mean a buyer or a seller,
right? Correct.
So what we do at the title company is we coordinate every piece of the closing. So we are working with the seller from the moment we get the contract. We do a search, and we're going to talk and communicate with the seller. We're going to have papers that we need them to sign to authorize us to talk to their lender. We are going to ask them for specific information we need on payoffs, if there are any judgments or issues. So first of all, expect communication. Expect questions, okay? And then expect us to be the facilitator. We'll work with the buyer's lender, we'll work with the surveyor, we'll work with the termite company, we'll work with the municipal lien search company, we'll work with the buyer's new insurance company. We touch every piece of the transaction, we pull it all together, and then we work with the lender if there's a loan involved to create settlement statements to actually perform the physical closing. And then you can expect to sit at our closing table and have us explain all of the closing documents, whether you're the seller or the buyer, and facilitate that actual closing.
Wonderful.
After closing, your buyers and sellers can expect that we will record the documents in the public records, and then we will issue a title policy to the owner, the new buyer, and then to the lender as well.
As a seller, what documents would you recommend that I set aside before working with a title company?
Great question. So I think as a seller, the owner's policy that will come in the mail about 6 weeks after closing, any bank statements with regard to loans that they have on the property, a prior survey, any documentation that you as a seller have from your homeowners association or maybe condo association. Those are critical pieces of information. And also your hazard insurance or insurance that you have on the property, so we can assist you and remind you to cancel that, right? Because you'll need to cancel that once you sell the home. So those are the critical documents that if you as a seller have them, makes all of our jobs so much easier. The buyer needs to be prepared with lender documents or documents rather that the lender requires. So it's really important, I think, as just people, whether we're buying or selling, that we have a handle on our own finances. And with that, I mean, bank records. Who do we have money with? Who do we owe money to? Our tax returns from last year, a current pay stub. So if you are a buyer buying a property, getting a loan, it's really important that you have that information available and ready to send to the lender. If you're a cash buyer, you need to have the funds in an account, obviously, and they need to demonstrate to you and to sometimes a seller that they actually have that cash money available in order to buy that property. So on the buyer end, having your finances organized, readily available to the people who need to see it, right? So that's going to be your lender or just a demonstration of source of funds if you're buying cash. So I think that's relevant information as well to share today.
All right. Do you have a social media? How can I find you, and where is your office located?
Well, the physical office that we're in today is 1390 Hope Road. This is the administration office where we actually do closings as well here in Maitland. But you can find us on social media under Fidelity National Title Dash, for instance, this office, Maitland, and then Dash Oviedo or Winter Park or Lake Nona, any operation that we have in its specific city that it's in. In addition to that, under my leadership, we have Chelsea Title, and Chelsea Title has an office in Mount Dora, Claremont, and Port St. Lucie. So we're always forever growing and looking forward to doing more business with you, obviously, Michael, and any clients out there as well.
Thank you. And be sure to check the description below for their link to their Facebook pages, and my link also to download my free ebook on 7 steps of buying your first home. Sellers, if you are interested in selling your property in the near future, contact me for a free CMA. I'll be happy to provide that for you guys. Well, thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
It's a pleasure.
And have a good day.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.